Thank you for talking with us some more. So you talk about how for some people with genetics or hereditary stuff, obesity can be more of a challenge. What are some of the things that you're referring to there?
Well, there are a number of genes that can cause obesity, so it's really a polygenetic illness. And then there's also other, genes that can affect metabolism and physiology, so you're more likely to gain weight on fewer calories, so that can be a problem. But I think the big issue I was hoping to convey in my talk is that the way people with obesity are treated is very unjust, because people with obesity are treated like they're failures, that they just need to work harder, they're greedy, they self-inflicted this problem, and they don't get care. And I feel like we give care to people who have AIDS, we give care to people who have cancer, we give care to people, I can go on and on and on. But yet obesity is one of these conditions that is not getting treatment. And it's most problematic for children. It's problematic for adults as well, but for children, because our environment is so toxic right now, it's very easy for a child who has this genetic liability in our culture to get very heavy, have excess weight gain, and then that excess weight can affect 30 different organs. It affects everything. And then the heavier the child gets, the more likely they get disease. And they're just not being treated properly, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk about treatment and
Sure.
what are the treatments that you work with children on?
There are no data really for drugs. So orlistat, metformin don't work very well with children and adolescents, so neither of them are a frontline treatment. So there is a treatment for childhood obesity, and I think the biggest problem is there's a big treatment gap. Kids aren't getting it. But to talk a little bit more about the work we've done, we've really looked also at the impact of trying to modify the social network. And then we really work to try to develop habits in every setting that child is, because our eating behavior is largely driven by contextual cues. And what's interesting, most people think I only make about 15 decisions a day with food, but it's actually over 200. Because if you think about what you're gonna eat, where you're gonna eat, who you're gonna eat it with, all those decisions actually mount up and they can be very overwhelming. So we really help the parent and the child and the whole family figure out their routines, their eating patterns, their activity patterns, budgeting in when they're gonna have sedentary behavior, budgeting in when they're gonna have these non-nutritious foods, and really building a culture of health in the family. Mm-hmm. And that takes time, and most people don't seem to understand that takes time. Most people feel like, just eat less and exercise more. And really, to change habits, we want to make them so ingrained, it's like brushing your teeth. And when you don't brush your teeth maybe one night, you get right back up the next morning and get right back on track. And so that's what we want to do. And we really want to work with the parent and the whole family to make the home environment full of what we call green prompts, where there are healthy foods, healthy activities around the home to maximize the likelihood that the environment within the home is healthy. And then we try to build that same health in the social network. So we start looking at the social relations. Who are those saboteurs? Can you have a conversation with them? Can you ask for more support? Who are your friends that actually maybe you sit around with too much? Can you change the nature of that? And we do it for the parents as well. But the good thing is it works.
Right. And when do you want to see kids come to you? You talk about how time is of the essence. Are you hoping to see kids when they first start to become overweight, or?
Ideally, yes, because we know even in kindergarten, if a child's overweight, they have a 4-fold likelihood of having obesity by the end of elementary school. And also, we know now that even 2-year-olds, it tracks. So if you have a child who's 2 who has obesity. Now the Preventive Service Task Force right now, guidelines are for 6 to 18, but there's been a lot of really good studies to show that you can actually change children's habits early on, and so you could avert a case even at 2, 3, 4. So it's never too early, really. And these health habits, the nice thing is that they're good for all the kids. So it doesn't matter if you've got a child who's struggling with their weight, you've got another child who happens to be a lean child. Everybody can, profit from eating healthier and having more physical activity, getting regular sleep, planning fun outings that have to do with reinforcers other than junk food. Mm-hmm. It's just that our culture has sort of degraded quite a bit into not really thinking about the health of our children, and in particular the health of children who struggle with obesity.
Mm-hmm. Are there other misconceptions that you've encountered in your work that we haven't covered that you think people should know?
Yes, I think a big misconception is that bullying increases the likelihood that the child will go get treatment. Kids with childhood obesity, they have body image concerns, they get victimized, they get teased, and they internalize all that, and they feel awful about themselves. So they constantly feel like a failure. And that's how adults feel. Most of these adults, they've tried diets, and most people who try naturalistic diets, you know what happens? They gain weight because they don't know how to do it right. They skip meals, they do this, they do all these things that backfire. So I think that's the biggest misconception, that by being critical and harsh, that it will motivate. Actually, it's demotivating and decelerating. And the best way to help someone who's struggling with obesity is to treat it seriously and know it's a medical problem just like any other medical problem, and they deserve care.
Mm-hmm. How do you suggest that people approach loved ones that they're concerned about, be it a child or a friend or whomever?
Ideally, advocate for care for those kids and find out, especially if you're close to them. You could share with them, you're aware that when kids gain excess weight, it tracks. 80% go on, and it's a really ideal time. And the nice thing with children, if you catch them early enough, they're going to keep getting taller. And if they keep their weight pretty steady and they slow down the excess weight gain, they're going to get lean. So it's a great time to intervene. So there's a lot of positive things to talk with a parent about. I do think that if somebody gets really fired up and passionate about it, there's the Obesity Action Coalition. It's a phenomenal organization, and they're really trying to get more advocacy efforts. So if you are passionate and you want to do work at the state level, national level, I think we're always looking for other people to help out. And for a professional, there's also the Obesity Society, and we're all fired up to try to help people who struggle with this problem.
Actually, one more question. If people walk out of the theater with only one thing from your talk, what do you want that to be?
Treat childhood obesity seriously.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.